about Rossini, it's like super posh, Rossini. No, I mean, these people, what we don't understand, it's like classical music. It was not composed by dead people. I mean, they lived, they just like had passion. They had they were sometimes very bad people, or just they had or bad moment or good moment.
Today's guest, one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite young artists, Valentina Ciardelli, returns to the podcast. I could have her on every month and would have new things to talk about. She's doing so many cool things. She's got this passion for, well, many things, but Frank Zappa, which is a passion of mine. So we talk about that and go deep, just like we did last time about that. She's got her first CD coming out September 20th, 2019. We've got a link to that so you can check it out. And we talk about all sorts of topics, her recent arrangements and recording of Cletus Awreetus and a Zappa tune, many other works, and how she got permission from the Zappa estate to record Zappa's music. That is cool and unusual. And we even talk about Joe's Garage, which I think we might have already talked about in the last episode. Again, going deep on Zappa, how she recorded the new string quartet by Kurt Morgan, who's Dweezil Zappa's bassist and arranger, and many other things. This is a great conversation. Valentina's good people for sure. I know you're going to enjoy it. Quick shout out to A440, D'Addario Strings, Modacity Colstein Music, Steve Swan String Bass, and Upton Bass. Thanks for sponsoring the show, and let's dig into this conversation with Valentina Ciardelli. Done so much in the whatever it was, like 6 months, 9 months since we talked.
Yeah, I think it was 6 months. Yeah, it was end of 2018.
Yeah, it was something like that. So I wish that everybody was. I feel so lazy looking at what you're doing, and just like and it's just so cool. So maybe we could start by just let's go through some of the projects you've been up to in these last 6 months, and then especially the new album, and then this Zappa Trust. Just tell me about what you've been up to.
So, okay, it's a lot.
I know.
I don't want to bother anyone because it's super long. But so basically the highlights, of course, of this 6 month frame is of course the recording of my CD that it was in April. The recording also of some of new music for string quintet with double bass and chamber groups with double bass. I've done a lot of recordings in my junior fellow year at Trinity Laban in London. And I've collaborated with Kurt Morgan, that is actually the bass player of Dweezil Zappa band, that he wrote this fabulous quintet for this project, and we recorded, and the record will be released very soon. And basically all these projects, even my CD, is for my career, because I just want to be a bass player, solo bass player, and chamber. But I think the picture is bigger because I'm really trying to push, as other young players at the moment, the figure of the bass outside the box of the only just orchestra instrument. And I'm not saying that it's bad to play in orchestra, because orchestra need us. Like, as I said before, orchestras cannot exist without basses. But the thing is, like, if someone wants to do something different, this someone should have the possibility to have the space. And nowadays I really still feel a lot judged by the instrument I'm playing instead of what I'm produced as an artist or as a young musician. A lot of competition, a lot of even labels just told me, oh, that's such a pity, we already have a bass player in there. And you can see they have 10 or 15 violin player, and they just like have only the space for one bass player. And that's unacceptable, because it's not equality. This is like judging me from the instrument I'm playing, and it's nothing different than judging me as a woman or judging me as a, I don't know, straight person or gay person. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
It's very bad, this thing in the music environment. People still judging you from the instrument you're playing. And I feel like as a bass player and as a person who really want to explore, and there is like, life is so short and there are so many things to explore, we really should push all together this kind of thing. Even orchestra player, they don't want anything to do with the solo environment, but they should just like don't judge like other maybe bass player than doing something else, like, oh, but you're a bass player, you cannot achieve that, or you cannot afford that, because it's the wrong way to think, I think. No, it's not like you don't leave the space to other people to do what you want. No. Exactly. So that's what I'm really looking for, and also just trying to gather people around, just to let them understand we can do more, and we are people. I want to be seen as Valentina, not as a bass player. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, the bass is something I love, and I will never change the instrument because I really love it. And I just hear people saying to me, oh, you know, but what you're doing, why you don't play cello? It's so better, no? It's so much better than bass. And it's like, no way, I like the bass, I want to play the bass. Why I should just go for a cello? Even if the cello is amazing, but it's not my instrument. So, you know.
I hear you so loud and clear, and I'm just so glad that you're out there just like unapologetically pushing the boundaries. Like, no, I'm doing my, I'm exploring, like you're just such a great example to me of like, and I love what you're doing too. Even if I wasn't so into like your projects, I still think you'd be a great example, but I think it's so cool. You were just like blazing this path, not just for bass players, for musicians, you know, all musicians. But I of course also love that you're doing it with the bass in hand, because, you know, I'm a bass player too. But so okay, so like what does a day look like for you? How does someone like put together all these different projects? What, talk me through just like a day in London, maybe like practicing, and then you're like getting in touch with the Zappa estate, and you're, you know, making all these collaborations. Like what's a day in the life for Valentina? Maybe not now when you're on vacation, on holiday, but you know.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to describe because every day is different. I mean, I try to find a way to practice, because of course I have to perform a lot of different repertoire. No, I mean, I have concert where I have still to play all Bottesini because people want to hear that, and I have to go back and perform these things. No, I have like my colleagues that play violin. I performed the Grand Duo last March in London in the Embassy, and I had to just go and perform it. Then the day after, I have a concert about all Frank Zappa's music, and then the day after, like a circle of Schubert thing with arpeggione and the leaders that are arranged, and you know, it's crazy.
Wow.
But I mean, the thing I think it's keep practicing like step by step what you have to do without freaking out, because when you start to freak out, it's like no, it's not working. And basically it's really like focus, like you have just to do that. No, if you have like 3 concerts in a row with 3 different repertoire, it's just like isolate what you really need from that repertoire, because of course Bottesini I practice already from years or stuff like that. It's just a question to build up and refresh and getting more precise in time, because you grow up also technically on the instrument, hopefully. But yeah, it's something like that. So basically I wake up, I just meditate a bit, because I just kind of need it. Just like to erase everything negative from my mind, because it's also very challenging when you do something very out of the box to stay strong with the mind, to just stop to listen, or just like having around like negative behavior from people, because there are a lot of people, they also don't want to be mean with you, but they are mean with you, and you just have to forget about that. If not, it will just intoxicate your mind. So this is I think the most difficult thing to get rid of in this aspect, because you always being affected about this thing, no? Especially if you're like aware of what is around you, no? Yeah, and a lot of doubts, like, I'm doing the right choice. Maybe it was easier if I've done something like staying back in the orchestra and just, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's something like, it's an already like way that exists, so people know how to do, like, you go to people like train me for audition and stuff like that, and it's a little bit more established. This thing, it's completely in the dark, so sometimes you feel, I'm doing right, or should I just go back and doing something else? And I think it's normal, but it's part of the game, no? And part of my day. I just ask myself every day if it's the right choice, or if I'm doing enough, or if I'm working hard enough to get things, or if I'm just spreading the message good enough around. That's also the thing. Or if I'm searching the people that trust in what I'm doing, because this is also another big part of my day, just searching for people and not begging help from people, because it's not the right way to do stuff. It's just to engaging people in what you're doing, and to let them understand that what you're doing, it's worth a lot, for not also only for you, but for all the community, because we are a social animal after all. We need to stay together. Yeah. And music it's just part of the game. You play in front of people and you give something to them, but the audience give you a lot to you. When you perform, you feel that. And that's why I like to perform in the stage, because when you go there, it's like, I don't know, you can do and you can say whatever you want in your way. Sometimes I think it's so much easier than real life, because you go on the stage and you're an actor. You stay there and you can let go everything you have inside. Of course, you have to practice a lot, but in the moment you are there, everything is going out, no? And people can feel that in a way. And that's why it doesn't matter if it's with a bass or with a violin. It just matters that it goes through, no?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
And I love that. That's such an important takeaway. I think is like I think it's challenging to get your mind set and everything, no matter what you're doing. But like what I do, I like go and I work in a cafe writing about the bass world. It feels very safe, right? You know, what you're doing, it makes so much sense. What you're talking about with like the resistance, like who are you with this instrument? You're playing what music? You know, and just to like have those challenges that seems like that could be so exhausting, just to like, and then just wondering, am I on the right path? Which I think you're on the right path, by the way. So I think it's super cool. But it's great to know that. So taking some time and just kind of meditating in the morning and thinking about that sets you up for the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is the most important part of the day, actually, because it affects you in everything, in your practice, because also if you're too worried, you cannot practice that much, or you cannot concentrate on the real purpose or what you're doing, or you keep. And also the important thing, I think, it's also why you practice. It's not only because you have to prepare a concert, but it's just like with this consciousness of, I am practice just because I want to just go there to show off, or just because I need this technique to just go through what I mean. And I think this is the basic difference of what is a musician and what is like a performer only. No, it's just like if you include the artistic level, but this is like very different. I think this is the real research all of us has to do, like in a term of self-consciousness, no? And this is why I love Frank Zappa. I'm so, in one direction, but he's so, like, it's opened your brain so much, because it's like, when you hear his interview as well, he's just speaking about these things, no? And there is an interview when people were asking to him, why you do what you're doing, why you play like that, and he just replied, Oh, basically because I really like it. So,
Are you ever curious just what kind of production capacity a company like Upton Bass has? Here's Gary and Eric from Upton Bass on how many basses they're turning out every year.
How many instruments today in America, Togwonk, Business Park, Mystic here, entirely in the U.S., do we approximately?
Just completely ourselves?
Yes.
I think probably up over 1,600 now.
Yeah.
Okay,
coming up around 1,700.
Okay.
Yeah.
The evolution of the product line over these almost 1,700 basses at this point is so cool. From the Gary Carr model to the Bohemian and Bostonian and all the other things that they do at Upton. I just really enjoy their instruments, and I have for years and years. Thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast, Upton, and check them out online at uptonbass.com.
Hi, my name is Andres Martin. I'm an Argentinian composer and double bass player living in Tijuana, Mexico. I play in a professional orchestra, also teaching and performing as a soloist in festivals around the world. After trying almost every string set in the market for the last 20 years, I found Kaplan string to be the only ones that can allow me to use all the different colors and techniques I've been working at during my entire career. I use both solo and orchestral sets, and I love the tone, tension, thickness, and the wide range of dynamics and harmonic resonance and timbre I can get with them. For me, they have the perfect balance between thickness and flexibility, making them a true pleasure under my fingers and bow. I'm happy that finally I have a set that makes me happy when I have to play in any situation.
Oh, I think we were talking about, I had such a great time chatting with you, a while ago about Zappa, and I think we brought this up, but I just love it. I'll make sure to link to it again so folks can check it out. But going through it and watching all of Zappa's interviews with David Letterman over the years, I don't know if you've, it's so, I mean, or any encounter with Zappa, there's this hilarious, I think we talked about this, but there's this hilarious, like, LA morning TV show from the 80s, right? And then he's showing the synclavier. And he's like, he's smoking, shirtless in his bathrobe, and these like very like uptight looking news people are like talking to him, and he's just he's just talking about someone who he is on his own path, and he doesn't give a what people think of that. And just so, even like going back to when he was on, it was the Steve Allen show or something like that, playing the musical Bicycle. I mean, I think that was right. You saw that? Yeah, I'll have to link up to all this so people know what we're talking about. But like what? And then so he's such a great role model, I think, for anybody in the creative world, and he seems like such a kindred spirit to you. So
absolutely, but I think because we are lucky that we have recordings of these moments, no? But I think other artists in the past, like, I don't know, I was reading some Rossini's memory, because now I have like also a duo with cello player, and we will perform the Rossini duet in the next year, 2020, and actually will be the first, the premiere of the first version, the Artex version, edited by the Pesaro Foundation, the Rossini one, because the one existing is not from them, and they decide to do another one, and we will premiere it. And they sent me the letters about Rossini writing to Dragonetti, and they were such, sorry the word, badasses,
Yeah.
They just like did like kind of, they rocks in London. They put the duo together. Actually, this tradition has got a historical foundation. They go into like a rich people's house. They played this duetto and then arias together, and people just went crazy. They were just like rock star performers, and they just like. And you can't believe now when you speak about Rossini, it's like super posh, Rossini. No, I mean, these people, what we don't understand, it's like classical music. It was not composed by dead people. I mean, they lived, they just like had passion. They had they were sometimes very bad people, or just or bad moment or good moment. But that's why sometimes nowadays music, it's a bit boring in this aspect, no? And it's not close to young people, because we feel it like in a kind of super like golden tower, you know, like we cannot achieve it. The people, they were all angels or saints. No, at all. I mean, and I think Frank Zappa is one of these kind of, you can see, like, because we have recording, and I think these people like Mozart, or they were exactly the same in their own aspect, no?
Oh yeah, that is such a good point. And yeah, if only we had videos and all the live recordings that we do of somebody like Zappa, but they were rock stars, weren't they? I mean, like, look at Rosie. I think sometimes about like what a crazy life somebody like Bottesini must have had. I mean, he was riding around on a train, like in the right when trains were invented, like with a bass somehow, like going all over the place. He was in Cuba, you know, in the 19th century, like what, you know, and he's like, you know, conducting opera. He's doing all that. Rossini, you know, and all the crazy tales you read about him. And we see these photo, like, you know, like these portraits of them in their, you know, finery or something. And we sort of like think of them as being in some sort of tower, right? But you're right. They were total rock stars. Mozart, if you've probably, and folks listening, have seen, or if not, check it out. But Amadeus, that movie from the 80s. Yeah. I mean, that did a lot. I'm sure, I know it wasn't like totally accurate, but that did a lot to make Mozart seem, you know, probably a lot like he was, which is kind of like a crazy maniac, which is what I think these people. Yeah, that's such a good point about. Yeah, just imagine what those people must have been like Rossini or Bottesini or those other you know, people that we maybe think of as you know, kind of put on a pedestal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, I mean, we don't have to forget that you have to practice hard to achieve like technical skills and stuff like that, no? Because there are also people that think, oh, just doesn't mean anything, the technique, you just have to express. No, that's fine. I mean, but it's like pretending to speak without knowing the language, you know? It's like a lot of people confuse the thing that we have to be more free and less attached to just like the formal box with having no idea what technique is. We just have to be super prepared technically, I think, because it's just like, in order not to be better than other people, just in order to allow ourselves to just express, that's it, no? But I think, like, in a way, you have to practice hard the technique, and in the other way, you just have to get rid of all the conventional thing, or like what the teacher said sometimes, because I mean, you have to follow your teachers or you have to follow a school, but at some point you have to do a kind of process to find also what you think about what you have processed in years, no, of like college, junior school and everything, no? It's like when you go out from your house, parents' house. You still attach your parents, but you're an individual. And you have to find your own way processing what you've learned from your parents. And I think this is also the process of what's happened with teachers. And nowadays, we are a bit stuck in that. I still feel a lot of young players are still attached and scared about saying their own thing with their own voice, because some teachers get angry, some teachers feel betrayed. This is a bit stuck still, you know what I mean?
I absolutely know
not
what
only
you mean.
Not only in the bass world, in general, in the classical environment, it's and that's so bad, because you keep feeling people that keep playing the same. You have 10 people that keep playing the same, and it's the same piece, but they don't express themselves, no? So that's a bit sad, I think. And in the bass world, it's still more obvious, because we are not at the level of the violin world or the cello world that it's so big and with a lot of people. No, we basically we know each other, all of each other, because we're so small world, no. But yeah.
It is. There are some wonderful things about being in that small world, and I think part of it there are certainly a lot of people who are not open-minded about exploring the different paths that are available, but. I think maybe bass might be a little more open than the violin or cello world or that sort of thing. And also, it's kind of an exciting time to be a bass player, because it feels like just the level of our craft has been rising so much in the last couple of decades, right?
Yes.
But that's such an interesting point you brought up about, like, you can't just be free and explore and go crazy. Like there's skill development, but that's a different thing than what you do with your career, right? It's kind of like working out or something. Like you got to have the ability, you got to have the capacity, and you got to like be consistent with that. But that is a different thing than what you're doing artistically. You know, you can develop those skills, and then you can go out and play free jazz, or you can play Frank Zappa's music, or play in an orchestra, or everything. But those two are not necessarily related the way maybe people think when they're in music school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And also we are not that much aware also about our past, history past. For example, what Bottesini did, he left us a lot of great pieces, but I think we are not aware enough on the fact that he left us a bigger legacy, that he just really woke the kind of solo world up, like, come on guys, we can do better than that. He basically picked the music he really loved, and he just transformed it and adapted as a dress for the bass. He was not trying to play as a violin, and nowadays there are a lot of transcriptions just took from violin repertoire there. Some of them, they're very good and they switch to bass, but some of them, they really seems like, why we're doing that? It's not like the purpose of the bass to imitate the violin, We don't want to sound like violin. We are not violin. And a lot of people, and that's the mistake, that then people, when you play like transcription, they are not very suitable for bass. They start to compare to violin, of course, or to cello, and they say, of course the violin is playing better. It's just like it was composed technically for violin, and even if we can do the notes, it sounds a bit odd. It's maybe I said it last time. It's like when you try to give to a baritone the Queen of the Night of Mozart. Of course he can do the notes on his octave, but it sounds a bit odd because it's not the mood of the piece. And that's the same. And Bottesini really tried to give us an identity as a bass, as an instrument, as solo, to value the quality of the instrument. And that's what we really should follow. And already we just started it, but it's a slow process, and we really should just be not afraid and push more and more and find really the tone of the bass. And that's, I think, the solution to get rid of the judgment of, but you play the bass, That's it,
Yeah, no, I know. It's funny as you're describing that. I've sort of realized in the last few years I've gotten less and less into playing like violin transcriptions or cello transcriptions. I can't even remember the last time I did that, but I've been playing more and more either things that are originally written for the bass from Bottesini or Bottesini's time or whatever, or new things. And they could be arrangements, but generally not things that I just haven't. I don't even remember the last time I did. I think I played Massenet Meditation from Thais recital recently, because I was doing something with my wife and she plays harp, and it worked well. But otherwise, I have not. And when I go to concerts and I hear even like an awesome transcription of like Arpeggione or whatever, I don't know. It doesn't excite me the way that things written for the instrument do. I think maybe it used to when I was younger, but I don't know. It's I don't know why that's been happening, but I've been noticing that.
Yeah, because I think it's like you can feel it's not the purpose of the music sometimes, And even if you do transcription, you have to be clever enough to choose and pick the exactly piece that it works for the instrument you're playing, and just maybe adapt it, But it's what Bottesini was doing, or Paganini on the violin, of course. I mean, all these people just did that. They were very clever just because they understood the purpose of the instrument they were playing, and they kind of value it, and they put under a spotlight that was perfect for the instrument. That's it.
There are a lot of career options out there for musicians, and Barry Kolstein of Kolstein Music has some great advice about keeping your options open.
I generally will tell anybody that goes off to, going as performance, go after your dreams. but also prepare yourself, because it's not always the easiest profession to pursue. And I'm a firm believer that in life you pick up as much knowledge as you can. Those are your armament in life, and you put them in your back pocket. You may never have to draw upon it, but it's a nice thing to have.
Colstein & Sons, for 70 years now, has been working to connect bass players with the finest instruments and help them achieve their goals and find those opportunities in their lives. Thank you so much to Barry and everybody at Colstein Music for sponsoring the podcast. This episode is brought to you by Steve Swan String Bass. And Steve has been researching top regraduation for many years. Here's Steve on the topic.
I found some old diagrammed bass tops in an old violin making book that had violins, violas, cellos, and only 4 basses from kind of the classic period, the early 1800s. And I took a pattern of kind of a topographical map of thicker in the center under the bridge, and then the thinnest is right near the edges, just before it flares out and gets strong again. And I put in some measurements that I thought would work, and we use that as a general pattern for top regraduation, and it really works.
You would be amazed how well this technique works. I've been impressed time and time again at how immediately a bass speaks after coming from Steve's shop, and how resonant and beautiful and open the sound is. Learn more at steveswanstringbass.com, and thanks for sponsoring the podcast. I want to make sure I would talk with you every week. I love that everything we talk about are like my favorite topics. I want to make sure to cover that CD, and then I was also looking on your website, music from the Sphinx. That's a project coming out later. So talk me through, because this your CD came out in April. It was recorded in April. Okay, recorded. Okay. And it will be launched in October 2019. Okay, so that's what I was okay, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss. I was like, there's no way I could have missed her CD release, right? I didn't. Okay, so this is the same project. Okay, so tell me about Music from the Sphinx. So basically, the title is a bit, what's the title? No, a lot of people ask me why this title. Yeah. So basically, I just try to just find that title that it was quite meaningful for me. And I start from the quote of Toscanini that it said, "I will die without understanding women and double bass intonation." And so I'm just like a woman and I'm a bass player, so I should have been like a sort of Sphinx for him. and just because we are still Sphinx for the society a bit, because we are like the odd guys from the string section, I just decided to adopt this title from my first CD. And on the cover, I would just have a kind of Egyptian makeup, because it's a kind of cryptic, this kind of very humoristic way. It pretends to be serious, but it's not, as every piece of music, I think. But and there is a lot of Zappa in this humor, but I don't know. But you're making me think of Joe's Garage, the cover of Joe's Garage, which again I'll have to link to it because probably almost nobody is it. But you know what I'm talking about, right? There's a very similar. It's like he's got some grease on his face, and he's sort of Just please link it because everyone has to see it. It's the best CD cover I ever seen. I think Joe's Garage one. I love it. But it's basically like this is the reason of the title, and basically it's a journey in 200 years time lapse, and it's starting with Morgan of Strauss, the lead, and it finished with a notturno that a contemporary composer, Italian composer, just dedicated to me. And it's like a CD with piano and double bass, but there are two special guests in 2 tracks, like viola and soprano. Mm-hmm. And in this CD, I explore the repertoire that was completely, or like at least a bit, forget by bass player and composer, because we have a huge gap. I mean, we don't have really anything substantial apart of Bottesini and Kusavisky and Glier at the beginning of the 20th century and end of 19th century. So I decided to
to play Strauss because I think it's really sweet with bass, and I think there are already versions with the bass with trio, but I did my own arrangement, and yeah. And then I did El König of Schubert for piano trio with the viola. That it's part of a circle of 6 leader I've arranged for this chamber combination. And then there is like a crazy piece that it's called the Diva Dance. I don't know if you have ever seen the Fifth Element, the movie.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's
Whoa.
the alien aria. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I can't wait for that. Okay.
Yeah, and it started with the Lucia di Lammermoor. Of course, it's like the aria, and then it starts with the crazy cadenza of Eric Serra. That I'm playing the bass like a percussion, and then I'm already also playing the melody, and it's not it's just in one track. It's not over recorded. It's just like a crazy part.
Wow.
And so yeah, and I really like I work a lot like how to work like electronic sounds on an acoustic instrument. Hopefully the results will sound good to everyone. And yeah, it's quite crazy. And the soprano really hates me when she saw the part. It's like, you're crazy. You want me to sing that? No way. She was just freaking out with like, this is not normal standard repertoire for soprano. And I told to her, yeah, this is not standard normal repertoire for bass either. So it's like, we are in the same situation. And then there is Echidna's Half of You for bass and piano. My sonata for double bass and piano that I composed in 3 movements. Then there is Orientale of Granados that was originally written for piano solo. And then my fantasy on the Butterfly of Puccini. That it's part of 3 fantasy I wrote on Puccini's opera, and I decided to record on a CD the Butterfly one. Yes,
Wow.
that's it.
Wow. Where did you record it? Where did it happen?
So it was we recorded in a studio in Grantham, in a Stanway studio. The sound engineer is called Spencer Cousins, and I really love to work with him because I discovered he's a Zappa guy as well. So. We are a lot around.
Wow.
So yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait to check out that I love the idea of making something that sounds like it might be overdubbed or using a looping pedal, but you're doing it live and getting those electronic effects live. That's such a cool thing. Sam Suggs, who you may know or have heard here, but
yeah,
he did that.
I really love what he's doing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love him. Yeah.
That his Daft Punk Chacon, which I've asked, like, when are you going to release the sheet music? And he says, well, I do it differently every time, so I have to decide. And which made me think, what? But that I can't. Okay, well, I can't wait. I can't wait for that. So that's October that's coming out.
Yeah, October. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, I will be sure to get the word out when that comes out. And was it through that project that you made contact with the Zappa people, the Zappa Trust, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was through this project because even for Eric Serra, I had to ask permission because it's music under copyright, of course. And I could not release a CD without their permission. There are people that are doing that, but it's very, very risky because if they decide to claim in court, they're right to do that, of course. I mean, I don't own the rights of the music and they can do that. It's like, hey, what you're doing. So, and I asked them and sent to them the papers and the MP3 recording of that. And then after, I think, 3 weeks, something like that, they just being back to me and said, okay, you can go for it. And I was like, wow, because they're really, actually, they're very picky and they really are quite picky about like making like improvement and stuff like that. So I was a bit freaking out, like, oh, what happened if they will not give to me the authorization? But then everything has gone well. So I'm super happy about that.
No, it's great. Well, I guess I'm not surprised that the Zappa Trust would dig what you're doing, because you're just so in alignment with like probably what Frank. But yeah, I've thought that over the years, though, because if I remember right, it's always been, or I don't know if this is still the case, but I know that Frank Zappa's music, it wasn't available on iTunes, and it wasn't available. Yeah, and it's interesting to think about that, because Frank was always thinking like 20 years ahead of everybody else, and so they might be right. That might be the right move to not have it like that. But it's so cool that you got that you got the green light, and wow.
Yeah, that's cool, and it's actually the first version ever approved for double bass, piano, and the chamber thing. So we have actually now official Frank Zappa piece in the repertoire. We can say that. And they told me, yeah, go for it. I was like, oh. I'm so happy about that.
Wow. Well, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for this to come out. And I'm such a fan. I went back like last night. I thought I'm gonna watch a couple of Valentina's YouTube videos. Then I ended up watching like all your YouTube videos, like because there's so much fun. So I'll make sure to link up to your channel too. But it's like it's just what you're doing, the creativity and the joy and the fun. It's just like in addition to it's so obvious. In addition to the virtuosity, and I mean you're a hell of a player too, and composing, and I'm such a fan of what you're doing. It's really
thank
cool.
you.
Are you taking a break now, or what's the next project on the horizon, or do you not want to let people know yet?
Yeah, so now I'm taking a kind of a bit of breaking, because it was such an intense winter and spring, and I really need time for focusing on practicing and compose new thing. I'm on another piece for trio now, and I'm finished also the double bass concerto orchestration, because I wrote a double bass concerto, and I'm just like trying to find out in the next month or just to perform it, but I still have to orchestrate the parts. I'm on the third movement now, and it's so damn difficult because I write things that are very difficult. It's like, why you write them? And it's like, yeah, okay, it's fine.
And you're orchestrating it too.
Yeah.
Okay, so that must be a really interesting process, because talk about a challenging thing to do is orchestrating something for double bass and balance and all that. That must be really interesting to think about. Yeah, because you have to think exactly which kind of sound you want from the bass, and then you have to think about which kind of sound do you want from the orchestra, and what is the best sound from the orchestra that values what the bass is doing. Mm-hmm. And also there are parts where you want the bass at exactly the same level of the orchestra, because you're doing kind of duets with another line in the orchestra. So, and also which kind of sound do you want? No, if you want to match it with the woodwinds, or if you want to match it with the strings, it's difficult. No, and I keep changing my mind on some stuff, because I just think maybe here it's like that, or here it's that, and it really doesn't come out till you try it with rehearse with a true orchestra. You can only really image. And sometimes it's coming out better than you imagine. Sometimes it's like, it's just the risk of orchestration. But yeah, and I think it's also a matter of experience. But it's a process of grow, and every time it's just a fun process. So now I'm just like I still have concert or recital, but till mid of August, I will be more kind of free, because I'm really focusing on the new repertoire and this kind of orchestration and composition, and I need time. And if I don't do it now, I will not have time later to do that. I'll bet you and Edgar Meyer would have a lot to talk about. I have a bit of a similar career trajectory. I never thought of that until just listening to what you're doing. But writing, kind of following your own path, incredible technique, but using it in a way that maybe isn't as as common, breaking out of the bounds of the bass world, both in terms of what you're playing and what you're writing too. So it's really cool. I can't wait. Okay, well, I can't wait to check out this concerto. I can't wait to check out the CD. We got to get you out here to California. Hopefully we'll get a chance to hang out in person one of these days. I'm going to be in the UK probably in the spring of 2020. So I'll let you know.
Oh, cool.
So, but maybe we could do one of these chats live. That would be
it
would
be amazing.
Yeah.
And let me know if I have like a concert around. You can come over and
I would love to check it out. Let's see. Anything I'm missing that you want to talk about? And we have to do this. I was so happy to get in, and I've got Valentina Ciardelli round 2, and I want to have a round 3 and round 4 because I love chatting with people multiple times. It's so fun, and I mean, I don't know if I've ever in 6 months seen somebody do so much that is just like the depth of what you're doing in terms of like composing and performing and the CD and everything. It's really cool. So we have to schedule this again in 6 months.
Of course. Okay. It's like the Spider-Man movies, no? It's like 1, 2, 3.
You got it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's a deal. Okay, it's fine.
Beautiful. Yeah. Anything we didn't touch on that you want to touch on?
I think about my next project is like in the middle of August. I will have a concert actually here in Lucca with Napoleon Murphy-Brook, that is the saxophone player of Frank Zappa. We will play again because we have a tour last year in Germany, and this year we were able to invite him in Lucca, and we will have a chamber concert with him, like my acoustic trio and him, the 18th of August, actually. If anyone is around Lucca or in Tuscany, just come, because it's a very unique opportunity to meet him and to see him playing live. It's still amazing. It's like the voice hasn't changed, and it's great. And I will be in Banff Center in September in Alberta, because I won like the artist in residency for 2 weeks in there. And then I will come to Texas, actually, in Austin, from the 9th till the 19th of October, for research in the Austin University Library, because apparently they have manuscript from Lucca musician Adolfo Betti, that was a cello player and a very close friend of Stravinsky. And I will go there with my pianist as well, because we will have concerts and we will research in the library. So maybe I will keep you updated about maybe concerting there if you're interested. And yeah.
Valentina, thank you so much for chatting. Check out her album, everybody. September 20th, 2019 is the date, and you can click through to that or click through to her website if you're listening to this after the fact. But I'm a big fan of what she's up to. I want to support her however I can. I know I'll be picking up the album. I hope you pick it up. And these are the type of artists that just make me so happy for the future of our art form. Contrabass Conversations is produced by Michael Cooper, Steve Hinchy, Trevor Jones, and Mitch Mooring. Mitch is making beautiful basses in the Dallas area in downtown Kilgore, Texas. Award-winning double basses. Look him up at mitchmooring.com. And thank you to Krista Copper for cataloging and archiving all the things we talk about here on the podcast. Super helpful. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Jason Heath, and we will see you again soon for more life on the low end of the spectrum.